You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
Since its inception, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, has been the best place for customers to build and run open source software in the cloud. AWS is proud to support open source projects, foundations, and partners.
Hello, and welcome to another on-the-road episode of the New Stack Makers. I'm your host, Heather Joslin, Editor-in-Chief of the New Stack. We're here at JupyterCon in lovely San Diego, California. And today we're going to talk about Jupyter Deploy, and we're going to talk about it with Jonathan Guinegagne he's a senior software engineer at AWS, and he's very involved in Jupyter Deploy, and we're going to find out about that project and his involvement and what's ahead with that. Welcome, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
First of all, can you explain what Jupyter Deploy is for anyone who's not not as familiar with it? What is its project vision and purpose?
Yes. So we've heard from a lot of users that they want to run Jupyter on the cloud, and for various reasons. Some of those reasons are they just need more compute. Some of the other reasons is they want to collaborate with distributed teams. And in order to do that, running it on your laptop is not going to do it, because you cannot just open up your laptop ports and provide access to other users over the internet to your own laptop. So we heard this multiple times, and what we found was that there was a lot of users can run it on either on their laptop, or there are managed services by the big cloud providers that provided a fully managed experience for enterprises, and there's really not much in between. So that's where this project came about, where can we do something to help those users who are in between, who need to collaborate or who need more compute, but who do not have the resources of big enterprises and who would need support from a whole lot of cloud engineers, et cetera, to maintain such an infrastructure.
So it's for that in between, you're not working for a big organization and doing something on that scale and have access to all those resources, but you're not.
But working it locally will not be enough for you. So
right.
Is there a way for AWS to help this segment of the market and those customers?
And when did Jupyter Deploy be introduced?
We are launching it at Jupyter conference just today. Tomorrow, actually.
We're making news then.
Yeah.
What is the importance of Jupyter Deploy now, and how does it fit in with AWS services?
Yeah. So AWS has had services to run Jupyter Notebook on SageMaker, for example. Those have been well established, and some of our enterprise customers like it, but that's not the only way of running Jupyter on AWS. And we've heard from users that they want to run it, and they want perhaps more control. They might want to run it on Kubernetes. They might want to run it with different types of identity, for example, their GitHub identity or other forms of identity. And in this case, they are on their own. They can use AWS, but they have to figure out all of the cloud components that they need to use in order to deploy this successfully and plug in the authorization and all the networking. So this is to serve that segment of the customers that we thought about creating this new open source tool that can set up all of the scaffolding for you.
What is the target audience for Jupyter Deploy?
So we are starting with small teams that need to collaborate in order, for example, to do a demo with a few collaborators across the world, or a small team of researcher, educator, fairly small team, less than 10 individuals who would want to cooperate. And what we hear and what I heard, for example, during this conference, is that people will just go through the whole process themselves. They will set up something, they will spin up a server, they will run something on some form of compute instance. So the idea is, how can we make this easier? How can we make this secure by default? We're bringing AWS expertise in security and generally our knowledge of our own cloud infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And then we recognize that AWS is one of the cloud providers. And so if we can make this tool open source, the community can contribute over what we call templates, so over deployment recipes to make it work with other cloud provider, perhaps, or other form of authentication. We would welcome those kind of contributions. So that's the idea. How we make it easy for this segment of the customers using our initial template, and extensible as well, so that if this solution resonates, then other people can bring their own template.
So there is the thinking that this may be something that can be used with other cloud providers as well as AWS.
Yeah, definitely. This is open source. This is fully on GitHub. This is a project of the open source team at AWS. And yes, we welcome the community to bring over templates working wherever they want, even on premises or, for example, on native Kubernetes cluster, not even necessarily on the cloud.
What might be some of the use cases for Jupyter Deploy as it becomes open source? It's open source that can be used by anyone now.
Yeah. So we have. We hear several things from different users. We've heard during this conference educators who just want to show it in a classroom. People who run workshops, they want to teach data science or to teach machine learning, and Jupyter is a wonderful tool for this. It's interactive, it can run a lot of compute, it can display rich media, etc. So they like it. They have the problem of how can we get the GPUs that we need, for example, when you want to run deep learning workflows or deep learning examples, and how do you make it accessible without having too much setup and without having people go through many hoops to sign up, etc. So that would be one of the use cases. The other use case we heard is you are a startup or you are an organization that requires the multiple users to come in and spin up their own compute instance on a generic framework. So that's typically what Jupyter Hub has done in the past. But what we've heard from some customers is that's not easy to set up Jupyter Hub, and a lot of the customers and a lot of the users need help there. Mm-hmm. So is there a way to simplify this? And if the Jupyter Hub community is interested in leveraging this tool to set up the infrastructure to create a Jupyter Hub, we welcome it as well. That's Jupyter Hub has its place here. So that would be one example.
That you mentioned Jupyter Hub. That is a question that I think might come to mind for folks, is that do we need Jupyter Deploy if we have Jupyter Hub? But it sounds like
so Jupyter Hub is a server that you have to deploy somewhere.
Yeah.
And you have to set up the scaffolding around it in order to deploy it. So it's a fundamental component that you can use as a serving part, but it must be run inside one of the cloud component in this case. So Jupyter Deploy could be used with Jupyter Hub in order to deploy Jupyter Hub essentially, and to spin it up and associate it with the different networking infrastructure that you need for your end user to connect to Jupyter Hub. So that would be one example. It requires a little more setup than the simple template that we are launching tomorrow with simple GitHub authentication, because Jupyter Hub is much more powerful. You can power many users, and over the past 10 years, it has developed a large set of useful features that you can use as well.
Would Jupyter? Are there peers to Jupyter Deploy? Are there projects that do similar things?
not that we know of, end-to-end that would set up the cloud infrastructure for you and wire up the end-to-end authorization. We are not aware of it, but it's a large ecosystem and we might have blind spots that we.
How is the project governed?
So that's an interesting question. The leader of our team is Brian Granger, who was the one of the original founder of Jupyter. Mm-hmm. So his vision for it is to be accepted by Jupyter Council at some point and become governed by the Jupyter Council. Mm-hmm. For now, we are developing it. We recently made it publicly available on GitHub. That's very recent, like only a couple of weeks back. So for now, it's mostly our team having access to it. But this is the vision that mm-hmm. It becomes part of the Jupyter ecosystem, and it becomes included in the Jupyter CLI as well, so that you can use it to deploy the various kind of templates that we envision.
What are the plans for multi-cloud and portability?
Yeah, so when we looked at Jupyter Deploy, what we saw, even for fairly simple templates with a single EC2 instance that routes connection over to a domain and using GitHub authentication, we needed something like 15 or 20 cloud resources, just because there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And so when we started looking at this, we started, okay, we need infrastructure as code pretty quickly in order to manage this. It's not something where you can make a couple CLI commands to set up your infrastructure. It's not going to be enough. Mm. And then when we look at, from our experience working with our customers at AWS, AWS has solutions for infrastructure as code, but our customers really like Terraform or infrastructure as code solutions that are vendor neutral. Mm-hmm. So based on that experience that we have and what we've heard from our users and our customers, that's what we decided to use. So our base templates use this Terraform, which is vendor neutral. So Terraform has a provider set up for Azure, for like all the cloud provider for AWS, and even for native Kubernetes, it can make it can read your kube config and deploy to native Kubernetes. So by integrating with Terraform as the base template, as the infrastructure as code engine, we think it's very extensible to other cloud providers. And also we build the command line interface, the CLI tool, and to support different engines. It can be engine agnostic to the infrastructure as code engine, even though the first template uses Terraform.
What would you say are some of the edge cases and potential limitations for Jupyter Deploy?
So it gets you started. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, running things on the cloud will require you to understand what are the components behind it. So it gets you from not knowing anything about the cloud and how to even begin to a deployment that's working. Then if you need to evolve it, and if you need to manage an infrastructure that has several users, that uses GPU, things are going to start crashing, things are going to start to go bad. This is where you will need more expertise, and you will need to learn those things. So this is useful for people to get started, people to not start from nothing. It's not a magic wand that will solve all your cloud problems. You will need to develop the cloud expertise in order to run this over the long term.
You mentioned that this is being introduced now. So adoption has been. Where does adoption stand right now? It's just so pretty much the people have worked on it, or the community, or is it?
Yeah. So Brian introduced us to other members of the community. We got their feedback from people at universities who could be potential adopters. We worked with them on the beta. So that's mostly what we received in terms of feedback from the community. Mm-hmm. But yes, this tool has not been announced before today.
Yep.
We are listening.
Can you give us a sense of how it integrates with it? You mentioned that it's using Terraform because it's vendor neutral. How it integrates with other tools and how it fits into the overall ecosystem of Jupyter or cloud native.
Yeah. So we use Docker in order to run our services. So the base template essentially sets up an EC2 instance. So in Kubernetes lingo, that would be a node. So a host. And on this host, you run services as Docker services in Docker Compose. So that we use Docker. The image that we use are very simple image that are built on the fly as well. And we use UV for the dependency management. And if you haven't tried UV, I really recommend it. It's much, much faster in terms of resolving the dependencies. As well as, and this is the feedback we got with working with educational organizations and universities, is UV is good, but it doesn't integrate with Conda. And for some of the scientific package, you need Conda. So there's this other dependency management, which is Pixie, which we use and integrate as well in the base template, so that you can essentially, your image is based on Pixie, and you can do Pixie add and add some dependencies that come from Conda Forge or from other channels, as well as from UV and building them very fast. So this is the second type of infrastructure we use. And then in order to provide integration with OAuth and with GitHub identity, we use OAuth 2 proxy, which is a middleware that you can deploy, and so we deploy it as a Docker service, and which will talk to GitHub essentially in this case to provide the authentication and verify whether that particular GitHub identity is authorized to access your app. Lastly, we use Traffic for proxy. So Traffic, has a free open source version, has a premium service for enterprises. So we use the free open source version there as well, as a way to do the entry point, generate do the TLS termination, and handle the ingress. And finally, we use Let's Encrypt to vend TLS certificate, to generate the TLS certificate and provide them. This is a really amazing tool. It's free. It works very well to generate a certificate, and that gets you end-to-end encryption all the way to your host, without relying on anything. No part of the traffic is unencrypted.
What you mentioned that templates are a big part of the architecture. Why that instead of, and what advantage does that architecture have over a monolithic one?
Yeah. So if you look at simply the journey of how we build the first template, we are an AWS team, so we are going to build on AWS as a cloud provider, but that's the first choice. Perhaps you have a relationship with another cloud provider, so like right from the get-go, you would not be able to use that. The second thing is, even if you are within AWS, you have many forms of compute in AWS, and so we chose EC2. You can run Jupyter or Lambda, but you could run it on Fargate, for example, or you can definitely run it on Kubernetes or on EKS. So that would be the second choice that we made. The third is what kind of identity provider do you want to use? There are many out there. We chose GitHub as a start, but you see, with all the combination, all the choices we made just for one template, we thought that really we needed the flexibility for users and for the community to build what they need for their particular use case.
And are there things on the roadmap for the future for this project?
Yes. So this is this is just the first step for us as we work on the infrastructure for Jupyter. The second thing we will bring is another template for Kubernetes on AWS. So EKS template that will set up a EKS cluster for you, greenfield cluster, install the required Helm packages in order to run all of what you need, like DNS resolution and termination, etc., TLS termination. And so that will be the second one. That will be on the immediate roadmap, and that ties into other work we are doing on trying to define a native integration for Jupyter in Kubernetes, because that's a problem that we've seen. We've seen many of our customers, including very large enterprise, having this problem, wanting to run their workloads on Kubernetes, and essentially creating operators that spins up pod and spin up services in Kubernetes to run this for their end users. And we've seen multiple enterprises create their own operator. So we are trying to see whether there's a way for the community to adopt one way to integrate Jupyter and possibly other IDEs into Kubernetes.
Okay, well, it seems like looking at the future there seems like a good place to end. Thank you very much. I just want to thank Jonathan Guinegagne from AWS for joining us and talking about Jupyter Deploy. And I just want to thank all of you for joining us for this conversation. This has been Heather Joslin for the New Stack Makers on the road at JupyterCon in San Diego, and we'll see you later. Thanks.
That's it.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.